Dr. Dauda Garuba, a highly respected expert in governance, security, and also natural resource management. Dr. Dauda Garuba is the Executive Director of CDD West Africa, and his impressive career spans decades of advocacy, policy analysis, governance reform, making him one of the leading voices in the field. Dr. Dauda Garuba has worked extensively on democracy promotion, civic engagement, and regional governance, contributing to key initiatives that have shaped policy and strengthened democratic institutions. And so his expertise is well recognized across Africa and beyond, having served in advisory and leadership capacities in international organizations, civil society, and policy think tanks. So we believe that his leadership and insight will undoubtedly set the right tone for our discussion today. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Dauda Garuba as he chairs the session. Please, Dr. Dauda Garuba.
Good morning, everybody. Permit me to welcome all participants in this annual regional convening of Wademos. I know we all came from far and wide, and we are going to begin in the next 2 days on some of the critical issues that affect our sub-region, and also be making suggestions and recommendations on how to go about it. The civil society, occupy a very important place in the development struggle. And in that development struggle, there has never been a time that the West African sub-region, especially if you look back into the last 20-something years, or even 30 years, that we have witnessed what we are currently experiencing. Yesterday, we had a very healthy conversation, that was a steering committee meeting, and you can almost tell that everybody is concerned about development in this region, and we are also happy that we have all the we have 2 key regional institutions that will be helping us to also dissect and engage in the conversation that we think will help us take critical decisions as to how to proceed in engaging the issues that we currently experience in the region. And for me, those 2 institutions, if you have ECOWAS on the table, around the table, and you have around the table, what else do we say we need in order to be able to both interact among ourselves, as well as also bring in regional institutions that will help in assessing as also critical decision on issues like this. So permit me to welcome everybody that is here present. And as we all know, by way of association or by way of being regular members of the Wademos, we all know the key objective of the organization. Over time, we have witnessed a lot of issues. For instance, the most critical ones that are issues of militarism or military rule. There are issues of constitutional change in government. There are issues of poverty and inequalities. There are issues of cross-border criminality, and all these are and several others are the issues that Our membership of this organization is targeted at engaging in advocacy, research, and capacity building that will help us out of the wounds. So there has never been a time that this is much more essential that we are having it today. So I want to create the indulgence that let's put on our thinking caps in the course of contributing to the conversation that will be happening here in the next 2 days, that we are able to help with good suggestions that will lift the sub-region from the wound. I welcome you all, and that is just my brief remarks. We are supposed to have another remarks from the co-chair. Do we have the representative here? And you don't have somebody to do that? Okay. So we're going to get, okay. So we're going to get goodwill messages from some personalities. The first is Hassan Guyo, the Swedish International Development Agency. Hassan Guyo is around, please. Okay, to get a good sense of what is happening here, we have to do a self-introduction around the table. Then we also take introduction from those who are online so that we can give a good account of ourselves. I often say that some are leftists, some are rightists, and I am centrist. But all the same, let me start from the last end over there. Can we introduce ourselves?
Good morning. My name is Francis Chegan. I'm a senior fellow at CDD.
The microphone, please. Use the microphone.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Good morning. My name is Francis Chegan, a former ambassador in the Ghana Foreign Service. I'm now a senior fellow at CDD Ghana. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Seth Adijao from Center for Research and Policy Development in the Gambia.
Even with the mic, we can't hear.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Ebere Ifendo from Women in Politics Forum, Nigeria.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Salia Kariba Traoré, je suis du Mali, je viens de la COSEM, la Coalition pour l'observation citoyenne des élections au Mali. Merci.
Bom dia, senhoras e senhores. Eu sou Indira Correia Baldé, jornalista e presidente do Sindicato de Jornalistas e Técnicos da Comunicação Social da Guiné-Bissau. Muito obrigada.
Bom dia, sou Dionísio Pereira, presidente do Fórum Cabo-Verdiano da Sociedade Civil, portanto venho das Ilhas de Cabo Verde.
Bonjour à tout le monde, et moi je suis Alassane Kona Baldé, je suis le président d'une ONG guinéenne qui s'appelle CPJ Guinée, Citoyens pour la paix et la justice.
Bonjour tout le monde. Moi c'est Dieudonné Kossi. Je suis directeur exécutif de la CJUS Togo. Merci.
Bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle John Benayon. Je viens de la République du Bénin. Je travaille en tant que responsable en charge de la démocratie et des droits humains au réseau des femmes leaders pour le développement. Merci.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gifty Ichaofori from Gender Center for Empowering Development, Ghana.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Kwesimri, a satellite security surveillance company called Satellite Africa in Ghana.
Good morning. My name is Napoleon Abdullahi, a former UNDP security sector advisor and former ambassador to Cuba and Mali. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Lahai. I am from Sierra Leone. I am the National Coordinator for National Election Watch. I am also the chairperson for the West Africa Election Observers Network and also the chairman for the Africa Election Observers Network.
Hi everyone, here's Musa Kondo. I'm the Executive Director of Sahel Institute based in Bamako, covering Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso and Benin. Thank you.
Bonjour, Alassane Soufianou Abdrahimoun, je viens du Niger. Je suis le président de l'Institut africain pour le leadership et le développement. Merci.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Souleymane Ouedraogo. Je suis chargé du partenariat stratégique au sein de la coordination nationale du ballet citoyen Burkina Faso.
Good morning. My name is Lassane Ouedraogo. I am an assistant professor of communication at Nazi Bouni University in Burkina Faso. I am also a research fellow with the Center for Democracy and Development, West Africa.
Good morning. Bonjour. My name is Edem Salome. I am the Director of Research at CDD Ghana, based here in Accra. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marcela Samba. I am the Executive Director for Campaign for Good Governance in Sierra Leone, and I also chair the National Elections Watch.
Thank you. Bonjour. Good morning. My name is Paula Sekufo, your network coordinator, Wademos. I also work with CDD as a programs manager. You are welcome. Thank you so much.
Bonjour, je suis Aliontine, le fondateur de Africa Jump Center qui travaille sur la paix et la sécurité. Ancien expert indépendant des Nations Unies au Mali.
Dauda Garuba, Center for Democracy and Development.
Bonjour, bon dia, good morning. My name is Ebenezer Esiedu. I Democracy and Good Governance Division at the ECOWAS Commission. I'm here representing the Commissioner of Political Affairs, Peace and Security, ECOWAS.
Good morning. My name is Kojo Asante, CDD and Wademos.
My name is Abdoulaye Jane. I am CEO of Africa Governance Institute based in Dakar. In my previous life, I was Under Secretary General of the United Nations, where I served as Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa, based in Addis Ababa. I also, many moons ago, stayed 4 years in Ghana as the UN representative, where I was so happy to come here. And I recommend Ghana to you. The people are nice. The food is nice, very nice. So you try it, you know. Particularly one that they call contombre. I have to hear.
Yes. Bonjour, je m'appelle Sadir Nias. Je suis membre du steering committee du Forum des ONG à la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples et conseiller à African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Study, mais je suis basé à Dakar, au Sénégal. Merci.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jacinta Kwao, and I work with the GIZ project, ECOWAS Peace, Security, and Governance. I'm here representing our head of components who, for one or two reasons, couldn't be here with us. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Francis Akwa Akins. I'm from the Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security at the ECOWAS Commission. Thank you.
Samson Annan from the Media Foundation for West Africa.
Good morning. Rabiu Al-Hassan from FactSpace, West Africa.
Bonjour à tous. My name is Emmanuel Yabois. I work with the Wademo Secretariat as a research analyst and also at CDD Ghana. You're all welcome.
Bonjour and good morning.
My name is Tijani Abdulkarim, Executive Director of Socioeconomic Research and Development Center, and representing the Transition Monitoring Group. Thank you. Nigeria.
Bonjour tout le monde, moi je m'appelle Ibrahim Bout, je suis chargé de programme au think tank Africa Jump Center. Nous travaillons sur des questions de paix, de sécurité, mais aussi de droits humains. Merci.
Bonjour à tous, je me nomme Jean-Yves Techi, je suis chef de projet à Pouvoir et Influence Côte d'Ivoire et je suis le représentant Côte d'Ivoire du programme Next Gen de Wademos.
Good morning, everyone. I am Defa Tunying. I work with Peace Hub The Gambia and Wademos Next Gen Fellow.
Good morning. My name is Georgina Coker, and I work with the Center for Democratic Governance, Liberia.
Bonjour à tous, je suis Flan Mouké César. Je suis enseignant-chercheur et directeur exécutif du think tank Centre de recherche politique d'Abidjan.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Nana Afajino. I'm the Executive Director of WACSI, West Africa Civil Society Institute. Welcome.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis Assata Mohamed Godish. Je viens du Niger et je représente l'ONG Femmes Action et Développement, FADI Niger.
Bonjour, good morning. Je suis Fairam Rodri Kone. Je suis le Sahel Project Manager de l'Institute for Security Studies basé à Dakar.
Hello. Bonjour, my name is Enwe Chingwete. I'm the Deputy Director of Surveys for Afrobarometer. Happy to be here.
Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Ibrahim Akan et je suis l'un des intervenants à cette réunion. Merci.
Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle Ekwe David Dosset, je viens du Togo, je suis ici au nom de Tournons la page et du Front citoyen Togo Debout. Merci.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous, je suis Cyriac Bougou, vice-président de Africtivist, qui est membre du steering committee de Wademos.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm David Kofi Asante-Dako. I'm with the project management unit of Wademos and also CDD Ghana. Thank you.
I guess that's it. Hello? Now, can we take a look at the screen and see those who are attending online? Is it possible for our technical... Permit me to invite Dr. Kojo Asante to give his welcome remarks since Professor Pompe is not around. Thank you.
Let me recognize
recognize our chairman, Dr. Karuba, Dr. Abdullah Jani, and our guests who are collaborating with us, also Mr. Tiani, and welcome to the third annual convening of the Walimus Network. Colleagues, in 2022, we all began a journey. In a way, we were almost seeing the challenges that were beginning to show itself in the sub-region around democracy, good governance, and inclusive development. And we met to create this network to coordinate our best efforts to build a strong democratic societies in West Africa that seeks and aim to fulfill the welfare needs of our citizens. Now, we know that this effort has not been easy. In one way, we can say that things have gotten worse as the global dynamics have changed. In this new multipolar or multiverse world, strong global powers do as they please while they dismantle global norms that protect smaller countries. In this multiverse, authoritarianism is on the rise, and spaces for civic openness, protection of fundamental human rights are closed or closing. There are many of you here who may have been victims of these closed spaces or have colleagues who are currently in jail for just doing big duty. Now, even as we experience this nightmare, misinformation and disinformation infrastructure and systems at full speed, coddling and celebrating autocrats and military regimes. We are under no illusion that democratically elected leaders in some cases have behaved the same way, particularly using constitutional coups to advance term elongation. These have weakened ECOWAS and ability to forge united front in the face of the attacks and the changing geopolitics. At the beginning of this year, the AES countries activated their withdrawal from ECOWAS. And they have this 6 months reflection period to reconsider. But we know that they forge ahead with their plans to remain separate, while others also contemplate plans to join them. At the same time, for those of us that are left, we have serious uncertainties about their political future. This includes Gambia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, and Togo. We are still trying to deal with post-election challenges in Sierra Leone. The others that are left, which is Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, Senegal, Cape Verde, must shoulder the responsibility to navigate this difficult period. And as if that was not enough, the recent international aid changes, spearheaded by the US, the dismantling of USAID and others, and the new wind blowing in Europe further complicates the effort to counter and build these strong democratic states that deliver material benefits to its citizens in Africa. But colleagues, notwithstanding our 2 years of being together have not been in vain. discovered the meaning of community. We have discovered the meaning of solidarity. We have learned how to take care of each other, work together in spite of the challenges of language, background, and experiences. We supported each other to get good elections in some of our countries, help to give voice to many, build the capacity of our next generation of fighters. And I'm sure our network coordinator can even point to more achievements that we have made. Now, given the times we are in, we should build on these positives and become even more resilient, more creative, more brave, more caring, smarter in the work that we do. This is our home, our sub-region. This is where our children live. This is where our families live. And so we must defend it and we must build it. We must build the ECOWAS of the people. It is we, the people, that must build the ECOWAS of the people. I have faith because I have to have faith. And so I call upon you to have faith. Let me use the opportunity to thank SIDA for their invaluable support to West Africa during this difficult period and to count on them for the future. But today, tomorrow, I want us to have frank exchanges of ideas aimed at
after then. But we take on the issue of goodwill messages now, and permit me to call Hassan Guyo, who is attending this virtually, to take the floor. Thank you.
Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, we can hear clearly.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. We have seen that since 2020, soldiers have pushed out elected governments in 6 countries. Presidents have defied constitutional reforms, democratic elections, and presidential term limits has produced peace at a time of government and leadership succession in Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, Senegal, and Sierra Leone, reversing the region's long and inglorious tradition of military regimes, military juntas, and civil government. Both ECOWAS and AU as regional and continental leaders have adopted protocols on democracy and good governance, which defines and outlaws these types of constitutional changes in government. And the citizens continue to show strong preference for democratic rule over about that there is both support from regional and continental bodies, as well as support for democratic norms and institutions from the people and the citizens. To counter democratic backsliding and restore the region's leadership in promoting democratic norms, the civil society and the regional economic communities, such as ECOWAS, have a very important role to play. This includes consistent, active engagement between these groups and with the region's political leaders, and considering that democracies are fundamentally people-centered, it is essential for citizens and civil society in the region to take the lead in revitalizing democratic initiatives. Initiatives that should involve ECOWAS and other regional institutions, encouraging them to reaffirm and actively uphold their previous commitment to democratic principles. As we know, democracy is a continuous living process. And this is why Sweden, through SIDA, as a development cooperation partner, partners with WADEMOS to strengthen cooperation among civil society organizations and civil actors to advocate and champion for democracy and compliance with protocols on democracy and good governance. We support the great work that you are undertaking to push back democratic erosion. And as you engage and deliberate in discussions to strategize and enhance advocacy and activism for democracy, we want to wish you a fruitful discussion and success. I'll stop here and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have Professor Aliou around?
Merci beaucoup, Président Daouda Karouba. Je voudrais saluer très chaleureusement mon ami Paul qui m'a invité, saluer très chaleureusement tous les membres de la société civile présents ici. Je voudrais dire un peu les défis auxquels on est confronté aujourd'hui, pas seulement en Afrique de l'Ouest, mais un peu aussi sur le plan international, et insister sur la question géopolitique. Généralement, quand on parle de nos problèmes avec des changements qui s'opèrent et sur lesquels on a l'impression qu'on est totalement impuissant en tant qu'État et en tant que société civile. Je vais peut-être utiliser des mots un peu barbares. On assiste à un processus de dédémocratisation. C'est presque mondial. Aujourd'hui, quand on voit ce qui se passe aux États-Unis, pratiquement les fondamentaux comme la séparation des pouvoirs n'existent pratiquement plus. Il y a une espèce d'inversion des normes, de désordre des relations internationales auxquelles presque que nous les Européens, n'étions préparés. Et aujourd'hui, quand on regarde la manière dont on est en train de procéder à une désintégration de la région, c'est également sur le plan géopolitique, depuis le G5 Sahel. Et puis maintenant avec, je le dis, notre... Nous n'avons pas été capables en tant qu'Africains d'avoir une autonomie sécuritaire. Et les parapluies qu'on avait n'ont pas été capables de gérer la question sécuritaire. Ça crée tout un désordre. Étant au Mali, je le sais, et il est évident aussi que la géopolitique est intervenue. La question de la démocratie est intervenue parce que dans les pays, effectivement, où les gens sont sortis de la CEDEAO, c'est les deux. Hein. À la fois désintégration de la CEDEAO et puis plus d'élections, plus de démocratie. Je suis d'accord avec le professeur Asante. Aujourd'hui, comment créer les conditions d'émergence de la CEDEAO des peuples? Comment créer une opinion forte qui puisse inverser ce qui est en train de se passer à l'heure actuelle au sein de la CEDEAO? C'est-à-dire remettre sur pied la CEDEAO. Une opinion de la société civile qui puisse à la fois défendre les intérêts des États et les intérêts de la région. Et il me semble que c'est possible. Si nous essayons de voir... Parce qu'en fait, du point de vue de la communication, quand on regarde la CEDEAO,
jovens, olha, se nós deixarmos para eles nos dar
on parle très peu du Togo. Le Bénin. Donc, il y a des problèmes tels que si nous ne travaillons pas à une opinion
on the dominant opinions that we have, especially among the youth, then we will not make progress. Look, even with the ECOWAS, for example, how can we reconstruct the ECOWAS right from the basis, right from the youth, right from the people? And I think that should be the torchbearer or the light at the end of the tunnel for the CSOs, and that is why I am happy. And as what Demos is doing or taking up this initiative, I can assure you, or I can advise that how can we look at how the geopolitical situation can play a role so that we can holistically attack the situation that we have in ECOWAS. Look, we have had issues in Guinea-Bissau and their connection with Putin, with France, and maybe even in connection with Trump and all that. And I can say that already Putin and Trump are beginning to create some synergy between them. So the question is, what are we going to do? Where do we come in? At what point are we invited onto the stage? Or what are we supposed to do? Because, for example, we have the AES countries that may have the platform that become maybe an access route for these international or external factors to also come in. In fact, it is up to us to make sure that we reinforce or give the right capacity to the youth, because I think they have a key role to play. Thank you for your attention.
I'm sure by the time we get to ECOWAS will take the lead in actually discussing what its ways are and how our support will be required. Permit me to call on Dr. Abdullah Jani to also make his intervention.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, the representatives of civil society organizations across West Africa, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure and profound gratitude and honor that I address this important gathering today. I extend my sincere appreciation to the West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, WADEMOS, particularly Dr. our chair, and all the leadership of the civil society solidarity in defense of democracy across our region, which is currently on fire. tremendous fire. And we have an institution which was performing very well. And I don't want to go into its achievements here, rather the shortcomings and how we can really retrieve it, even though my friend Alin Tin says we should maybe dismember it. I think that's drastic. I wish to thank, as I said, the leadership for bringing us here. The state of democracy in West Africa presents us with sobering realities that demand our urgent attention. According to the 2024 Democracy Index by the Economics Intelligence Unit, only one country in West Africa is classified as a full democracy, with 5 characterized as flawed democracies, 6 as hybrid regimes, and 4 as authoritarian regimes. The regional average score of the 8 out of the 10 falls below the global average of 5.3, highlighting the significant democratic deficit we must address. Between 2020 and 2024, our region witnessed 7 successful military coups across 5 countries: Mali twice, Guinea, Burkina Faso twice, Niger, and most recently in Sierra Leone, which happily it failed. These unconstitutional changes of government have affected over 125 million people, representing approximately 30% of West Africa's population. This alarming trend represents the most severe democratic regression our region has expressed over the past 2 decades. Freedom House 2024 Freedom in the World report reveals that 5% of West Africans, 6.5% of West Africans now live in countries classified as not free, a dramatic increase from the 2.2% in 2019. The civic space continues to shrink, with Civicus Monitor data showing that 11 out of the 15 West African countries now have civic spaces rated as repressed or obstructed. The economic dimension of our domestic challenges is equally concerning. According to the World Bank's latest regional economic outlook, West Africa recorded an average of GDP growth of just 2% in 2024, well below the 6% needed to significantly reduce poverty. Inflation remains stubbornly high at an average of 4.8% across the region, eroding citizens' purchasing power and fueling discontent. Youth unemployment stands at approximately 42%, creating a dangerous reversal of disenfranchisement. This is a time bomb for our sub-region, if not addressed. Recent Afrobarometer surveys reveal troubling trend and support for democracy as the preferred form of government has declined from 7.5% in 2012 to 63% in 2023 across the Soviet West African countries. Alarming. Most alarming is the 52% of respondents expressed willingness to accept to accept democratic alternatives if they deliver economic trends. A 15 percentage point increase from a decade ago. I came here 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, to witness the installment of President Mahama. And when he entered the hall, it was amazing how he was received. Tremendous ovation and so on. But what bothered me most was, after that, the coup leader in Burkina Faso came in. And when they announced his name, it's amazing. Maybe you were there. You were there. I mean, everybody got up and applauded this. I found it sick, really sick. So really, we are losing the population. Really, if they sit there and feel that you can equate Muhammad, we were celebrating governance in Ghana, we continue to be a model for this continent. You equate him in terms of popularity, in terms of support, in terms of applaud with a coup leader, and I won't characterize him because it's unsafe. One of these days I might go to Burkina Faso. So the challenges to ECOWAS relevance have become more pronounced with the announced withdrawal of Mali and Niger that you know already to form the alliance. And they are giving them 6 months. It will go beyond. If you give them 2 years, they will still be in the same place. Aluntine and I organized a meeting in Dakar recently where we were entrusted by the president to see what are the possibilities, what sort of interventions can we make to really encourage the ASF countries from going ahead with their initiative. I think 2 weeks later, they informed the bank, So really, they are way on their way, and as I said, some of them are getting support from their population, which is serious. Yet among these challenges, civil society continues to demonstrate remarkable resilience and innovation. Civil society organizations led by Aluntine and Wademos and so on, and we encourage you to continue to do this. In 2024, last year alone, pro-democracy movements organized over 230 peaceful demonstrations across the region. Remarkable. 230, so we continue. Now we will make it 460 if you have the chance and the ability to do so. Pro-democracy movements organized over, as I said, this tremendous number of meetings. Digital activism has expanded with social media campaigns reaching millions and creating unprecedented accountability mechanisms. The West Africa Civil Society Forum registered a 28% increase in cross-border solidarity initiatives compared to the previous year. And we commend Wademos in this respect and hope that they will continue this upward trend. The Wademos network itself represents a powerful example of this solidarity, growing from 35 to 45 member organizations since its launch in 2022, and successfully implementing regional advocacy campaigns that have influenced policy decisions at both national and ECOWAS. I now, after leaving the UN, I've created the Africa Governance Institute, and I now pledge my support, membership, and support for Wademos, and we will from henceforth really participate actively in making sure that you reach the level and targets that you are seeking. As we confront these realities and deliberations, must focus on concrete evidence-based strategies for revitalizing the democratic project in West Africa. We must address the governance development nexus more effectively, recognizing that citizens evaluate democracy not just by electoral processes, but by the ability to deliver inclusive development, security, and justice. Research by the Africa Governance Institute, which I must quote, because really I give credit to the others, I must give credit to my own also, our own institute, shows that countries with strong and independent democratic institutions experience 18% higher foreign direct investment, 24% higher tax revenue collection, and significantly better service delivery outcomes than their counterparts with weaker institutions. I'm preaching to the converts, but you know this. But it's good to repeat it so that those who prefer Traore to Mahama know the mistake that they're making and they will realize it later on. I urge the gathering to develop actionable recommendations for strengthening democratic resilience through one, economic governance reforms that prioritize initiative, inclusive growth, and equity. Two, enhanced civil society participation in regional decision-making process. And this is important. You know, it's vital that civil society plays an active role in this. Three, digital innovation for civic engagement and transparency. Lastly, strengthening regional mechanisms for protecting democratic norms. I think Wademo should lead this and really make this the template for all civil society organizations in this, particularly in this sub-region. And we stand ready to work with you on this. As we deliberate over these 2 days, let us remember that democracy's greatest strength is the capacity for self-correction and renewal. Despite the current headwinds, our commitment in democracy values must remain unshaken and strong and supported by all of us. As we deliberate over 2 days, the Africa Governance Institute pledges to support these efforts through our research capacity building, and policy activities. Together, through solidarity and strategic action, we can reverse this democratic backsliding and build this inclusive, responsive, and resilient domestic systems in our region, in West Africa. I think we stand at a very critical stage. If we let on democratic regimes, if we let this tendency of democratic backsliding to become the norm in West Africa, we are facing big trouble. And I think, really meetings of this nature, some of the things I added, but I'm sure you can add many more, to a platform that we will fight for. Platform that we fight for, look for, what the most leadership in really, bringing this agenda, share this agenda, because not every civil society organization is here, but share it with this agenda. And then we make this one, this annual meeting, 10 times bigger. And I think we should just come here and look at each other, eyeball to eyeball. I don't like this screen business because you don't see their eyes properly. So let us come and do this. I think I'm long, Chair, and I apologize for being long, but I thank you for your attention and wish that we have fruitful deliberations here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and that also adds to the list of the groundwork that will ultimately climb us in the intervention by the ECOWAS in the keynote address. But the last but not the least on the goodwill messages list will be Jacinta Kwao of GIZ.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I introduced myself earlier and I had mentioned that the head of conflict prevention and elections was supposed to be here. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here and he has delegated me to represent him. So on his behalf, please allow me to share with you his goodwill message. Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues and members of Vademos Network, it is truly an honor to be here today and to extend warm greetings at the annual conference on behalf of the ECOWAS Peace, Security and Governance Project, which is co-financed by the European Union and the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. The EPSG project is implemented by GIZ, FIAP, which is a Spanish Development Corporation, and Expertise France. The project is committed to enhancing peace, security, and governance in the ECOWAS region through 5 priority areas: conflict prevention, security sector reform and governance, support for electoral and democratic transitions, women, youth, peace, and security, and strengthening regional training infrastructure. The threats to democracy in West Africa today are deeply concerning. In addition to unconstitutional changes of government and electoral disruptions, the rapid shrinking of civic spaces has become a defining challenge. Across the region, restrictive laws, judicial harassment, internet shutdowns, and violence against activists, journalists, and opposition voices have severely weakened democratic engagement. In an electoral context, these restrictions undermine transparency, stifles political competition, and erode public trust in institutions. Without active civic participation in an open democratic space, elections lose their credibility and democracy itself is put at risk. At such a critical moment, building solidarity among civil society organizations is not just necessary, it is urgent. Vademos gathering today provides a crucial platform to reflect on how civil society can respond to these challenges through transformative and collective actions. Social movements have emerged as a powerful force for domestic renewal. Across West Africa, we have seen how mass mobilization, whether through pro-democracy protests in Senegal and Guinea, youth-led electoral advocacy in Nigeria, or grassroots movements pushing back against constitutional manipulations, have shaped governance debate and resisted democratic backsliding. These movements have reinforced the principle that democracy belongs to the people and must be protected by the people. They offer innovative approaches to reclaiming civic space, holding leaders accountable, and ensuring that democratic governance remains resilient. EPSG recognizes that credible elections are central to democratic stability and remains committed to supporting electoral integrity and democratic transitions in the region. We are open to collaborating with organizations working to defend democratic norms, strengthen electoral institutions, and amplify citizen voices in governance. As we engage in today's discussions, let us reaffirm our shared commitment to democracy, resilience, and collective action. By working together, we can chart a course for a more democratic, inclusive, and stable West Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that rendering, and I'm sure that you've already struck the fire on which the ECOWAS Commission itself will now stand on. You've established protocols, and I think we are looking for the climax of that as will be experiencing as the keynote address is offered. Many years ago, well aware of how ECOWAS came about as a window through which the sub-region was supposed to create economic integration. And we had that opportunity and we created it. And at some point also the regional organization became challenged by what was not anticipated. Given the relationship between security and development, it was thought necessary to address that challenge of insecurity. And since then, we've had everything and anything added to the responsibilities of ECOWAS. And at the moment, it appears we are going back to those challenges we thought we've already passed by. So in that context, some of us who are watching from the side as civil society organizations have also seen how ECOWAS has responded to some of the challenges, including the decision to transit from ECOWAS of state to ECOWAS of the citizens. The extent to which we have gone in that journey perhaps will also be part of what we'll be hearing today. But around the corner, we're also having a sense that much hands need to be on deck to be able to support the work of ECOWAS, especially from the civil society, to help transcend and transform regional governance that we need in this continent. Like I said earlier on, we have not been this challenged before. Yesterday in our meetings, we kept asking ourselves, concretely speaking, how many countries in the sub-region do we really have, to count on when it comes to some of the issue of governance discussed? We had 5. We did a countdown up to 5 yesterday. And what I hear this morning from the address delivered by our father, Abdullah Ijane, I was hearing 1 from another statistics. So, from other statistics that are offered. So, is it true? What else can we learn from ECOWAS? How can we support ECOWAS in transforming some of the challenges that the West African sub-region has today? I don't intend to preempt the keynote address, but permit me to yield the floor to Ambassador Dr. Abdul Fattah Musa, ably represented by our brother here, Ebenezer Asiedu, the Director, Democracy and Good Governance at ECOWAS.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. But I would want to seek your permission to speak from the other side. ECOWAS Commission, our tradition is that when addressing the community citizens, you stand to address.
That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you very much, honorable members of the WADEMOS. I would want to stand on the existing protocols established. Nonetheless, I would also want to recognize the chair, who is now a friend and a brother, Dr. Dauda Gariba, representatives of CSOs in West Africa, and also members of the WADEMOS network, distinguished guests and participants, members of the media, good morning. I'm making this presentation on behalf of the
Commissioner of Political Affairs, Peace and Security, ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Abdel Fattah Musa. It gives me pleasure, and also I feel highly pleased to deliver this keynote address on the occasion of West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, WADEMOS, 2025 Annual Regional CSO Convening. Let me begin by wishing you Akwaba, a Ghanaian word of warm welcome to those of you coming from beyond the shores of Ghana. I am confident that you will quickly discover that you are amongst people who pride themselves, and justifiably so, on their sense of hospitality, a situation that has been attested to by Mr. Abdullahi Jane and also Dr. Sante. I would like to express ECOWAS Commission's profound appreciation to WADEMOS for hosting this important event and also for their invitation to make a keynote address. I am particularly delighted that there are concerted efforts and synergy by civil society actors to address present democratic recession in West Africa. These initiatives are crucial as present context of democracy, peace, and security are complex, making single-factor explanations or very simplistic solutions ineffective. There is therefore an urgent and compelling need for dedicated and strategic collective engagement of critical stakeholders, particularly the CSOs, to join hand with the democratic forces towards achieving stable and enduring democratic processes and regional integration in West Africa. Democratic governance, peace, and security. The solution to the crises that are ravaging some of our countries, such as terrorism, degradation of the environment, migration, the retreat of democratic values, unconstitutional change of government, etc. All this require a real increase in community citizens' mobilization, sacrifices, engagement towards preserving ECOWAS legacy in order to put a definitive end to all of these prevailing challenges, as mentioned. As you may be aware, that today's event is taking place in the year of the commemoration of ECOWAS's 50th anniversary, our Golden Jubilee. Allow me, on behalf of the ECOWAS Commission Management and on my own behalf, to congratulate you all for the remarkable achievements and enviable milestone, which are common assets and shared identity, i.e. the ECOWAS, has attained despite some distractions and pressing challenges that lie ahead in our journey to a peaceful, prosperous, and fully integrated region. ECOWAS has received particular recognition for its trailblazing role in regional conflict intervention, free movement of goods and people, and an outstanding degree of financial self-reliance for the implementation of key activities using its community-level levy model. More recently, it has also been recognized for its important role during the COVID-19 pandemic. We firmly believe that the path to greater peace and prosperity for the community citizens lies in greater integration within the region and with the rest of the world. Coincidentally, the celebration of ECOWAS's Golden Jubilee is marked by the unfortunate exits of the Alliance d'État du Sahel, AES, which include Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from the community. This pivotal moment offers an opportunity to reflect on the future prospects for regional integration in West Africa. I therefore welcome the opportunity to throw further light on our ongoing efforts and prospective solutions to the present challenges facing us while navigating the complex democratic, peace, and security landscape within the purview of the economic integration, and also to improve upon the living standards of over 4 million people, as well as integrating them. I make this statement within a particular context, and that context is the theme for this convening: regional integration at the crossroads, ECOWAS at 50, AES and future of multilateralism. This theme is very auspicious. The holding of the convening is indeed timely because it is taking place at a time when the avowed goal of regional integration and the entrenchment of democracy and sustainable peace in West Africa are being put to a stern test. The region, among others, is confronted with the resurgence of coup d'etat, military-led transitions, the exit of 3 countries, fiddling of constitutions to allow tenure extension, and ravaging armed terrorist attacks. ECOWAS, born of the sacrifice of our forebears, now finds itself at a rare crossroads. Perhaps the most significant and peculiar attribute of being at a crossroads is that one is forced to make a deliberate and calculated decision as to the turn one should take. Being at a crossroads provides one not only with a staging post for introspection, general reappraisal, and crucial decision-making as to desirable or imperative change in direction, but also with an urgent necessity to make a choice and pursue that choice to its logical conclusion. I hasten to inform you that ECOWAS has chosen the path laid down 5 decades ago by its founding fathers. We have resolved to prioritize solidarity, unity of purpose, and consensus while respecting community rules, its norms, and values, and also embracing pragmatism in the face of increasingly dynamic realities in the region and across the world. Brotherhood and progress in development and integration are now a reality and a necessity in the region. This has been the result of the vision and leadership of the founding fathers and current leaders, but also above all, the CSOs mobilization across the region. Your many sacrifices, your unshakable commitment to ensure that the ECOWAS legacy are preserved and sustained. The evolution of ECOWAS can only be understood against the background of the fascinating history and circumstances of West Africa since establishing contacts with the world beyond its borders. The fact that slavery, colonialism, as well as racial and economic marginalization had left an intrinsic yearning for freedom, unity, and solidarity among peoples of African descent everywhere defines its wish to integrate its states and peoples. Although pre-colonial Africa has had experiences of great empires and kingdoms, such as the ancient Ghana, Mali, Songhai, Camille Bono, Oyo, Asante, Benin, etc., where, for instance, the Fante and the Ijaw fisher folks plied their specialized skills along the entire coastline of West Africa, and migration of farmers and Fulani cattle herders from the Sahel zone to the savannah, taking advantage of environmental conditions for economic sustenance. These economic activities have thrived until today, despite the threats of protracted piracy and tourism in the Gulf of Guinea and the Central Sahel, respectively. The pervasive poverty, Cold War challenges, and meltdown of the international economy after World War II compelled the countries of West Africa to seek unity, security, and strength through a less controversial process, i.e. by opting for establishment of the ECOWAS through the signing of the ECOWAS Treaty on 28 May 1975 in Lagos, Nigeria, with the main aim of promoting cooperation and development in all fields of economic activities in member states. The focus of ECOWAS integration and cooperation has been driven by the developmental and political regionalism, underpinned by market integration. Although ECOWAS was established by our forebears to promote economic cooperation and integration in West Africa, the devastating conflicts and civil wars that engulfed many parts of the region led to the quick realization that rapid economic progress was hinged on the presence of peace, security, and stability. Being an important engine of regional integration on the African continent, ECOWAS has brokered peace processes in the region, including in Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, the Gambia, Liberia, Mali, and Sierra Leone. It has also carried out developmental programs, including major infrastructures, which have contributed to deepening the integration process. ECOWAS adopted ECOWAS Vision 2020 in 2007, and now Vision 2050 in 2020, marking a paradigm shift in the region's integration and development process. The vision moves ECOWAS' state-centric approach towards people-centered and people-driven development, where conscious and inclusive programs are implemented to guarantee a bright future for the community citizens. Implementing this vision, ECOWAS has recorded significant strides in its regional integration experiences. According to available reports, West Africa remains the fastest growing sub-region in the sub-Saharan Africa. This growth is linked to the achievement of ECOWAS in critical areas of regional integration, such as free movement of persons, goods, and right of establishment, consolidation of the free trade area through the creation of a single regional market that is based on trade liberalization, harmonization of economic and financial policies, as well as the establishment of customs union, with the entry into force of the common external tariff in 2015. Consolidation of energy generation and transmission through the gas pipeline project, consolidation of regional peace and security, regional infrastructure network such as Lagos-Abidjan corridor, and now we have the prior Dakar corridor. Acceleration of the monetary cooperation program with a view to establishing a single currency, and that progress has also been made in the establishment of electricity exchange systems, the electricity supply program, the promotion of renewable energy and energy efficiency program. All these programs contribute to the improvement of the regional competitiveness, supported by the private sector development strategies and common industrial policies. These aforementioned achievements are in the right directions towards the fulfillment of ECOWAS' two separate but related mandates, which are economic integration and political stability through the promotion of regional peace and security. Now I'll delve into ECOWAS and its relations with the AES countries. In keeping with these numerous success stories and given its geographic proximity and cultural affinity, West Africa is a historically integrated region composed of ethno-settlement areas that were disrupted by the political borders arbitrarily imposed during colonization and balkanization of Africa. What binds West Africa is beyond formal institutions. Rather, geographic proximity and cultural affinity rate higher in our relationship. Hence, despite the former breakaway of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, through the formation also of the AES, interaction amongst West African citizens and prospect for these robust interactions would be fine-tuned by the decisions of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. The authority has lifted, if you recall, most of the sanctions on the AES countries, retaining only suspension in the decision-making organs of the community, similar to what the African Union currently has. This decision reflects both pragmatism and the spirit of solidarity and accommodation that have characterized ECOWAS over the years, guided by the principles finding local solutions to address challenges facing us as a region. In the same vein, the ECOWAS Authority, at its 66th Ordinary Summit held on 15 December 2024 in Abuja, Nigeria, provided another 6-month window of opportunity for further engagement with the AES countries through the leadership of President Faye and President Fonyasimbe as co-mediators. It is our hope that this new opportunity will yield the expected return of the AES countries to the community and allow us to resolve our differences as a family. Since its creation in 1975, ECOWAS has come a very long way and has constantly adapted itself to addressing prevailing challenges and changing situations both regionally and globally. ECOWAS continues to innovate and reinvent itself against odds to adapt and address existential challenges that have confronted the organization. This is what makes ECOWAS unique, and that served as an example and inspiration to other African regional entities. However, to be proud of our successes is not to be blind to our weaknesses or to lose sight of the present critical threats that continue to undermine regional integration, peace, and security in the region. Given the nature of the evolving regional and global political and security dynamics, the geopolitical and geostrategic competitions, and the emerging multipolar order, the authority of heads of state and government has found it necessary the need for a new transformational and multidimensional approach in reforming the present regional integration architecture and the process. In this regard, the authority at 865th ordinary session held on 7 July 2024 in Abuja, Nigeria, among others, directed ECOWAS Commission to convene a special summit on the future of regional integration in West Africa. This special summit would seek, among others, to ignite a regional conversation on the evolving context of governance, peace and security, as well as regional security, regional integration and multilateralism, with a view to providing responses to current challenges and also meet aspirations of future generations of ECOWAS citizens. To this end, reflections during the summit, the special summit, will not only border on addressing just today's present issues, but would also be forward-thinking and prepare for the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. In essence, the special summit will serve as a rallying point for people across the region to reimagine and recommit to a collective path, embracing regional integration as the bedrock of our shared future. While the preparation for the holding of the special summit is still at the planning stage, let me assure you that WADEMOS and other regional CSOs, CSO networks, will be invited to actively participate in the events, consultations, and also meetings leading to this historic summit. You would also agree with me that the future of West Africa political growth and socio-economic prosperity heavily depends on creating political and economic opportunities for the community citizens. Increasingly, community citizens' engagement and contribution to the democratization and development process has resulted in several disruptive, in quotes, and radical thinking, bringing about innovations that are changing the status quo. They are indeed influencing the existing narratives by finding novel ways of contributing to the democratic seen as threats to peace, stability, and seen as threats to peace, stability, and security in the region. The importance of establishing the ECOSOC West Africa is now crucial than ever before, given the urgent need to accomplish the overriding ECOWAS objective of deepening economic integration within the region, as well as the new vision of moving from the ECOWAS of states to an ECOWAS of people, peace and prosperity to all. By ECOWAS of people, peace peace and prosperity to all by 2050. We therefore hope that at the end of this gathering, a framework and modalities will be drawn up to advocate and support ECOWAS's plan. Establishing ECOWAS, we are presently undertaking the review of the 2001 Supplementary Protocol on democracy and good governance, a venture I know most of you are very much interested in and would even want to know where we have gotten to. This review process embeds concrete commitment of every West African, particularly the CSOs, to preserving the legacy of ECOWAS founding fathers, coupled with the determination, a strong sense of solidarity and self-reliance. ECOWAS shall traverse this trying period and emerge as stronger and more resilient regional organization. I therefore hope that the work of this convening, through relevance, will lead to concrete proposals to enable us to consolidate regional integration, democracy, and good governance in West Africa. May your work be crowned a success. I express my sincere gratitude to Wademons once again for hosting this important event and for their invitation extended to me. I thank you very much for your kind consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very, very much. And that is really, really rich and it's big enough for us to chew. And for those of us who are looking through the program, the agenda, you want to say that as a keynote, all the conversation that will be happening here will be touched or already touched in that keynote. And I think that it provides the way for the conversation, and we really, really appreciate this. We appreciate the fact that time is fast spent, but the fact also remains that we would have loved to, even if it is one comment or two or question to be taken, but looking at our time, we may not be able to do that at the moment. We have enough 2 days to have this conversation. Some years back, in 2020, I had the rare privilege of doing a book chapter comparing ECOWAS and the Southern Africa Community Development, that's SADC. And one of the key issues I emphatically raised then, which of course is contained in the address, is the fact, in the keynote address, is the fact that of the regional commissions you have in the entire Africa, ECOWAS was the most advanced. And I heard him loudly saying the same thing in the keynote address. We may have 1 or 2 challenges in the last 2 years, but it still does not take away the fact that we are advanced as a regional body, but we need to do more in terms of maintaining that leadership that we've already established. This is a phase that nobody actually planned for, but we are going to traverse it with all of us putting hands on deck to help the situation. I think the key thing is that as civil society organization, it's a huge responsibility we bear, and we also need to hold ECOWAS feet to ensure that this is achieved, especially that bit of the transition from ECOWAS of state to ECOWAS of cities or ECOWAS of the people. So it gives us a window, and the reference to creating the ECOSOC, actually also like having the contribution to development for citizen participation in ECOWAS development placed in the hands of civil society. So we must grab this with all hope that we'll be able to help the country, the sub-region transcend the current challenges. So we are going to leave it here and then come out for group pictures so that we have this also etched in history, that on this day, the 4th of March 2025, a group of citizens who are conscious about regional integration, who are conscious about the collective power of all to better the lot of our sub-region, came together to discuss the challenges, the opportunities, and the prospect of the sub-region, anchored on a regional body called ECOWAS. So we welcome you to that photograph. Thank you.
Chair, with your permission, we will be back here in the next 15 minutes. So we go for the picture.
Anyway, we'll make a presentation, and then we would have discussants. We would hear from Fahiraman Kone, Sahel Team Leader, Institute of Security Studies, ISS. We will also hear from our brother Ebenezer Asiedu, who would be taking the space of Prof. Prempe, who cannot be here. And then Dr. Ibrahim Akane, who is a regional integration expert, and we'll also hear from Ambassador Napoleon Abdullahi, and they will be discussing the presentation, but also responding to some questions that I would put to them. Then we would have a plenary. Hopefully, we'll be able to make the time to have a discussion and hear from us here, all of us engaging and talking about the issues. So let me now invite Anyway to make a 15-minute presentation. Anyway, please take the floor. Okay, so I'm told we are supposed to move up, so yeah, that will take us 5 minutes. So, but anyway, can we move up, please?
Democracy, but specifically focusing on West Africa. So using the Afrobarometer data collection between 2021 to 2023. So just to inform you that for that particular round, we covered 39 African countries, but because the focus is on West Africa, we will have on average about 15 African countries. So, so just to set the tone, so most African governments actually had the notion that democracy is not a concern, or citizens really are not concerned about the form of government that prevail in their own spaces, but basically are concerned about economic performance or supply of economic goods and social development. So when Afrobarometer came into play, some of the things that we have been tracking is the state of democracy in every country that we have a presence. Just understanding what are the issues, accountability, issues to do accountability of presidents or of leadership, issues to do with multi-partyism, term limits, issues to do with media freedom, institutional accountability. And so today we'll be sharing some of these issues that we have actually been taking over time. So looking at the state of democracy, from the data that Afrobarometer has been collecting since 1999, we are able, especially looking into democracy, we are able to compress that data into support for democracy, which is basically the demand side, and also the supply side of democracy. So demand, what is that the citizens are actually demanding? What is that they actually would support? What is their aspiration? What is that they will actually would want to see on the plate? And then the supply side, what is the government actually offering? And just checking if there is alignment between the supply side and the demand side. So what we have seen from the latest Afrobarometer data, as I mentioned, 2021 to 2023, this is where we have all the countries. Currently, we are completing another phase, but all the countries, some countries still have to collect data. So what we found from our data is that on average, across the 15 West African countries, support for democracy remain robust. So citizens would want to see a government that is accountable. They want to see a government that can actually deliver free and fair election. They want to see a government that complies to term limits and a whole lot of issues. But looking at where we are coming from, Afrobarometer has been in existence since 1999, so we are able to track issues over time and across space. So from the 15 West African countries, 13 of them have actually been participating, except the Gambia and Mauritania, which joined Afrobarometer later on. But what we see, I think just a worrying trend, is that for the past decade, so between 2014 to 2021, 2023, we see support for democracy has declined. And there's some level of opposition, and opposition to military rule has weakened. I think those are really sort of like worrying results. Looking at West Africa, we see that West Africans are less likely to reject military rule compared to the rest of African states. So we actually have that sort of comparison. And even more worrying is the issue that what we had to do was to ask citizens if they will be willing to accept a military takeover if elected leaders abuse power for their own goods. And we see here a majority of citizens, about 56%, saying that, yeah, we can actually, something that we are willing to take on board. And at a glance, looking at the supply for democracy, what is that the government is putting on the table in terms of what citizens want? And so our findings shows that actually only 48% of West Africans think their countries are mostly or completely democratic. And only 4 in 10 say they are satisfied with the way democracy works. So we see here, I always also elaborate further that we have some bit of mismatch here in terms of the demand side and the supply side. Clearly, in summary, I know we don't have much time. Afrobarometer, just in summary, is a Pan-African non-partisan survey research. We basically conduct public opinion survey on broadly democracy governance and quality of life. We've been in existence since 1999. We've grown from 12 countries to currently about 42 African countries. And the main goal is to give African public a voice in policy-making decision. We've completed series of rounds, 9 rounds of Afrobarometer survey, and currently we have almost wrapping up the 10th wave. Allow me just then to, this is where we are. The gray shades we haven't actually covered, but where we are right now, we're already covering 75% of African countries. So we have seen a huge expansion over time, democracy, and the satisfaction. So this is what we see from the data that we collected between 2021 to 2023. And I will here and there actually show some comparison between African states, West Africa, and also the rest of the African continent. So we asked a couple of questions that looks into the tenets for democracy. Will citizens prefer democracy to any other form of government? What is their perception in terms of military rule? One main rule where basically the president decides on everything and is not accountable to anyone, even to parliament. Issues to do one-party rule. Will citizens embrace multi-partyism in their own countries? And so looking at just comparing the West African countries to the rest of African countries, we see here that there is an appetite for democracy, support for democratic tenets, and especially within the West African, and on 2 of these aspects. Reject for one-party rule, 83% for West Africa, compared to 76% for Africa average. Preference for democracy to any other form of democracy. However, we see here a different picture when you look at the rejection of military rule. And this, we see here that fewer West Africans, 58%, say they would read. And specifically, these sort of findings tie very well with what's happening in our West African countries. Looking at the preference for democracy, is democracy preferable than any other form of governance? And across the different countries, 15 of them from West Africa, our picture shows that we have difference across the different countries, but also it's important to look at the tail end of this analysis. We have Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. Most of these countries that actually have experienced coup or military takeover and saying democracy, few of them actually say democracy is preferable to any form of government. I think that's really tied very well with what's happening in these countries. Changes over time, looking at between over a decade, 2014 to 2023, green bars will show projection, will show that we are actually, there's an advancement. So most citizens actually prefer democracy in 2023 compared to 2014. And the orange one, it actually shows regression. And as you can see, we have a couple of countries that are actually regressing, and most of these are the ones where we have real issues and insecurity challenges. Rejection of one-party rule. I think what's interesting from this is that we see here that there's an appetite really for multi-party competition, and a strong majority of countries, in most of countries actually endorse and reject basically one-party rule. Even these countries where we have issues, majority still endorse, actually reject one-party rule. Rejection of one-man rule, again, they support that the president should be accountable, and we see also a high appetite on this particular democratic trend as well. Rejection of military rule, if you check the percentage here, we see we still have a majority of countries that would reject military rule, but if you look at the country average, the regional average is actually a little bit depressed. 58% say they will reject military rule. And at the lower part, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, where we have a serious issue, fewer than below half actually saying they're rejecting military rule. And changes in military rule, here, quite interesting. Only 2 countries out of these 13 West African countries, 2 have seen actually a progression compared to the rest, 11 of them that actually regressing, backsliding in terms of democracy and democratic tenets. Trend over time, so looking from 2014 to 2023, we're looking at all these democratic tenets, and what we see is a decline in terms of the number of proportion of citizens actually who actually support these democratic tenets, and specifically the aspect of military rule. Over time, we see citizens are beginning to sort of really, fewer actually, rejecting military rule, from 73% in 2014 to 58%, which is really a huge decline here, about 15% point decrease from where we from 2014. And these other democratic tenets, support for multi-party competition. We also see quite a number of, proportion of citizens that would support multi-party competition, although we still have a few that are at the tail end, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso. Same for accountable governance, a few Senegal, Niger there at the end. Support for elections, high appetite for elections. Citizens believe that we should have elections in our own spaces, even the average 79%, with countries like Liberia and Sierra Leone, Benin here at the top, huge majority endorsing that we should actually choose leaders through regular, open, and honest elections. Presidential term limit, something very contentious in some of our countries, not just for West Africa, but even Africa as a whole. I mean, what we see here is that there is endorsement for term limits. Citizens are saying there should be term limits. And so when we see most of our presidents or leaders actually vying for an extension of their presidential rule, is defying, the citizens' desires and the citizen wish. So we see here high appetite for also term limits, presidential term limits. One question that we asked this time around, just to gauge the issue, I mean, when elected leaders abuse power for their own ends. And so quite interestingly, in a number of countries basically to Benin, saying yes, it is legitimate. If elected leaders abuse power, I think it is legitimate for the army to actually take over. So they basically, citizens are already endorsing, military takeover in the condition that elected leaders abuse power. And I think this is where we keep on saying clearly, our democracy is definitely, if there is any, it's definitely under threat. So we've been just discussing the support side, how citizens desire, what they want to see in their own countries. But what is the supply side? What is the government giving out? What is this that the government is actually placing on the table? There's the supply side. So we ask question, overall, how satisfied are you with the way democrats work in your country? We see here, I think from where we're just coming from, there's a high proportion of citizens demanding, take a note, we see several, majority of citizens wanting to see an accountable government, wanting to have free and fair elections. But when looking at the satisfaction, the supply side, what is that on offer? What is the government offering? And so where from this chart, we see that just 4 in 10 West Africans say they are satisfied with the way democrats work in their own country. And changes in satisfaction, we see here also just in 3 out of these 13 countries, that's 3 countries actually have seen a growth. So realize more of the citizens actually saying they're satisfied, but clearly most of the countries actually, we see sliding, we also see a regression over time. And same as perception that we ask whether citizens believe that their country is democratic. And so, what we see here is actually that just below half said their country is democratic. Just a few, Sierra Leone up to here, Niger said their country is democratic. So really, it shows that the supply side is clearly depressed. And we look at changes over time. We also see quite a lot of backsliding here in a number of countries, Niger, Guinea, and quite a number of these other countries. And looking at just the variation across different groups, for 3 areas here, democrats preferable to any other kind of government, we see majority, more of the old age actually say yes, we prefer democracy to any other form of government compared to the younger generation. We also have variation on rejection of military rule, where we have actually the older aged actually saying they reject military rule compared to the younger generation. I think that's also really expected. Of officials being corrupt, we see also the older generation, less of them actually saying most or all of them are corrupt. So what Afrobarometer has done basically is to use the data that we have collected to create, I won't go into details on this, to create what we call democracy scorecards. And so we have democracy scorecards for all the 39 countries. And so it measures the demand side of democracy and the supply side. So just an example of what we see here, the demand side, we see there's a strong appetite for democratic tenets. Citizens want to see accountable government. They want to see government moving for free and fair election. They want to see multi-partyism in their country. They want to see, government even respecting term limits. But we look at the supply side, and mostly you see a trend of decline over time. And this is actually across most of actually also a mismatch. And I believe it is this mismatch that will cause, conflict, especially between the citizens and the state. And over time, we see some of this. I would want to say the coup that has happened, it could be one of the reasons that there's continuous decline, especially in terms of satisfaction on the level of democracy. Citizens, whatever citizens are demanding is not what they are being offered. And so this actually generates into conflict. And I think in terms of just the takeaway need for government to deliver democratic and accountable governance to match demand. The notion that Africans don't want democracy or they are not concerned about democracy, our findings actually show that citizens demand democracy. Citizens, they want to see governments that can deliver, not just on economic goals, not just on social development, but they want to see a government that is accountable. They want to see a government that respects its constitution. They want to see multipartyism in the country, free and fair election. They want to see a government that also, respond, or a president that also parliament that can provide oversight to presidents. So, yeah, I believe this is a great takeaway for all of us as we continue with the discussions on democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can I please ask the panelists to move forward, please? Thank you. I would like you to just give me, in 2 minutes each, what are some of the good things that we can learn from what has worked where democracy is concerned in some of our countries? So let me start with you.
Yes, but permit me to speak in French if, yeah. Is that okay for everybody? Yes, but my English is not really good. Yeah. I think, je pense que voir, il y a des aspects positifs importants quand même à... Un des premiers aspects, je pense qu'il faudrait mettre en avance.
The first that must come to mind is to understand that we have some democratic crisis that's is specific to Africa. But the good news is that even as time goes on, we've had some intellectual debates and everything going on just to see that we can get out of the woods. I think it is obvious that the trend towards democracy is irreversible in most countries, because in some countries that we have the impression that the military rule is enforcing some authoritarian rule, but you can realize that there's some link of democracy. Look at the new constitution in Mali, for instance, or Burkina, or like in recent times in Niger. There has been a clear instances that discussions have been on democracy. I think it's something very important that we need to note. The second thing that we need to note also is that the demand for a better democratic system is present in most discussions, because it is obvious that the level of dissatisfaction is coming down and the desire for improved democracy is on the rise. I can state that there are certain countries in Africa that has shown some inverse trend. Look at the situation where we have a lot of coup d'etat in the Sahelian countries like in Guinea also and all that. Is that there is a strong desire for transparency in the resource management of these countries and how the corrupt elite are grasping everything for themselves and other forms of corruption, and the desire where they are, the citizens are hungry for certain answers. It's been about a week or 2 weeks ago whereby the Malian government took certain concrete decisions on taxes, on telecommunication, and other consumables as well. Look, this took place on the 19th of February, but the government has implement certain reforms to the betterment of the situation of the citizens. All these are intended to give the citizens some better conditions of living. And despite there's been some challenges, there's this culture where the citizens demand certain benefits from our political leaders. Just to say that for me, these are good news, because already we are in a geostrategic environment where a lot of democratic models are implemented. There are changes, there's a wind of change actually blowing along, whereby we are looking at multilateralism, and also despite how delicate our situations are in West Africa, I believe that we still have to leverage on the good that we have made so far.
Yes, indeed, there are some positives that we can look at, because when Anyway was presenting, if one was going along with the findings, they were becoming more traumatizing. Watching and listening to such findings, but I can understand. Nonetheless, I guess there are some positives that we can also leverage on within the region. We've seen recently some other countries emerging as more like deepening their democratic credentials. For instance, we can talk about Senegal. We all saw what happened last year. Indeed, getting to the end of 2023 and beginning of year 2024, where the citizens actually stood their grounds. And we also saw institutions also working to ensure that the right thing was done. Of course, institution here referring to beyond civil society organizations, also referring to that, made sure that they actually went to the polls, because the courts thought that that was what the Constitution actually requires. We've also seen in Ghana, where since 1992, we actually observed alternation of power from one regime to another, to the extent that the losers oftentimes would concede and allow the winner to take over power. we have also experience in Cape Verde, where one can see that, yes, democracy, as far as liberal democracy is concerned, there are good examples and positives that one can actually draw from. So all in all, we've had certain countries that have exhibited that strength, notwithstanding the fact that they also on their own have their challenges. But of course, the positives override the shortcomings that we see in those countries, to the extent that the citizens are well alive, well awake, and would always object to what they don't see as good democratic practices. So yes, we have those examples to possibly lighten our hearts and not to be so traumatized by some of the findings that we are seeing. Maybe we'll go into that in the findings, especially when it comes to those negative points of it. Thank you.
Okay. Alors, ma réponse à la question que tu as posée va se faire en deux phases. La première, parce qu'on nous a présenté tout de suite ce qu'on appelle en anglais un survey. Mais je pense que le survey aurait pu aller un peu plus loin dans la recherche de l'information qui explique ces points de vue-là. Qui sont dans la société les vrais moteurs du système démocratique? Qui sont dans la société ceux qui font tout pour que...
Got it. What are the issues that are breaking the democracy apart? And how are the daily activities or the things that are carried out daily that are democratizing the states or the situation? That is one thing. Just a while ago, the representative from ECOWAS mentioned my country, Senegal. I think we can use the case of Senegal as a case study to observe and see the changes that occur, because no changes are the same. Just a while ago, we've had a deep study and survey on the scientific situation of Senegal. I don't think we would have been here talking about this. I don't think we would have been here talking about this. In fact, they had been the mouthpiece of these citizens, giving a voice to those who are voiceless and giving them the platform to make sure that they express freely. The third stakeholder, which we saw in Senegal, which I can't say that they woke up from their slumber, but rather, let me say, they also played a role. The universities, because universities had never been part of any political system for so long, but at this call, they were all part. Or at all universities, we saw different communiques that were published here and there to ensure that at all costs, at least the judicial system was brought on its toes to ensure that they took their rightful place. That is to say, when we had the Constitutional Court that put the president on its toes just 3 days before certain major declaration, they made it clear to him that, look, you can't take this tangent, you can't do this, you can't do that. These are the stakeholders, these are the real engines behind the change that we experienced, because our societies are no longer working the way they're supposed to work. They are no longer like now that we are in a world of privatization. People are not really, the societies are not really taking their rightful place as it's supposed to be. And unfortunately, we are having breakdown of society or institutions that are supposed to be there to lead us on the right path. But the Constitutional Council and all that, all these institutions that are put in place must take into account all facets of society, all aspects of society, as well as the leveraging on the civil society organization and how they can ensure that this that we have done will be sustained for decades or for years to come. This is to state that I can't state that we are out of the woods yet, because certainly what really caused these desire of change in power and everything, it could easily crop up one day if we go to sleep. So certainly we need to also leverage on the good practices. We are talking about democratic evolutions. I think about 5 days ago, our Prime Minister said, when he met some workers' union and all that, that the most, it says that African countries that are really making progress are those that are led by dictators. Why would he even make such a declaration? Does it really reflect that he himself is willing to be a dictator one day? The question is that at what point that the democratic systems becomes a second option instead of a first? That's the question. And all the countries that you have mentioned is before, just like I said, before I even end my submission. Look at how the media is attacked. It's in every country in Africa. You see, the civil society organization, the workers' union, and all that. The way they're attacking them is easily to tell you that, like in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, and all these countries, they are showing that these are the people, these are the institutions that are working for our good, and they are those that are safeguarding the democracy. That is why they are under attack.
I want us to look at the regional level and ECOWAS's, what I would call, waning influence, and how we can rescue that. Because I believe that the kind of moral authority that ECOWAS had, you can talk about the legal authority, but that's aside. It also had some moral authority that ECOWAS had in the region, has reduced significantly. So what should ECOWAS be doing differently? Because I think that to some extent, particularly when it comes to unconstitutional governance, elongation of tenures, there is some blame that has been laid at the step of ECOWAS. So what should they be doing differently? And I would like to start, Emmanuel, with you. I know that this is putting you in a very tight spot because you work with ECOWAS. But there may be something that you think that might be helpful if ECOWAS looks at things differently, particularly in the current context that we find ourselves now. So let me ask you, and then colleagues, you can add briefly, but Emmanuel, this is yours.
Thank you very much, Nana. Indeed, I mean, this is something that obviously will put anybody in a position. But of course, there are reasons why we are having this experience at this very moment. And the reasons are quite simple. One, being that there have been a bit of shifts in the world order. That wasn't the case previously when ECOWAS's instruments held sway. You would all agree with me that there have been some kind of epochs right from the establishment of ECOWAS up until now. ECOWAS was founded in 1975 when there was the world order at the time was led by two great powers, where we had bipolar world order, the USSR and the USA. Along the line, with the disintegration of the USSR and end of the Cold War, emerged USA as the only power, where we had the unipolar. And it was around the same time that we experienced the civil conflicts. And with that experience of the civil conflict, ECOWAS came out with a lot of instruments to self-regulate. And then we had a superpower, a unipolar world, and a superpower in the form of US, who was on the side of liberal democracy. And therefore, whenever any country violated any of the norms, we had one particular state that would rally everybody together and make sure that whoever is a deviant is actually brought back, right? Unfortunately, the world order has shifted, and therefore that influence that ECOWAS had on its members no longer holds sway. We are now in an era of multipolarity, where there are so many different powers that member states can forum shop, that if you don't support me, this one will support me, and therefore they can decide to be deviant. We only heard recently that ECOWAS mission was in Guinea-Bissau, trying to find a common way of dealing with the current crisis that they have, where a president term had expired, but is still holding on. So there was an attempt to see, can we have an early elections to avoid this kind of crisis? This man says that if you want to come and dialogue with us, there are certain parties that I won't let you, as ECOWAS mission, to actually have any consultations with. ECOWAS mission said no, they stood their ground. Said that no, the authority directs, because we oftentimes would take our power from what the authority has said. That go there and have inclusive dialogue. They didn't say exclusionary dialogue. So since the authority, which you are a member, has asked ECOWAS to do that, the dialogue should be inclusive. ECOWAS went ahead, and the man actually asked them to leave. Right? Why would the man? And the man said this whilst he was in Russia. But this is something that wouldn't have happened under the unipolar system. He would have been whipped in line. But this is the case that they have all these kind of powers that actually support and stand behind them. And therefore, they can actually rise up against their own adopted norms and core values, right? So that is one of the reasons why ECOWAS has this kind of challenges, as you rightly said, the waning influence. The influence is no longer there because of the current world order we find ourselves. We also have a situation where even the youth, right, because of course we live in a region where the demography, the population makeup is said that 60 to 70% are youth. Our democracy is just about a generation old, about 30 years. Most countries are now even getting closer to the 30 years. So if you have a generation that actually didn't experience those kind of authoritarian and military, rule, they tend to fantasize because they never lived under that. Where freedoms, individual, even freedom to belong to any association, all those things are curtailed. So this youth haven't never experienced or even felt that kind of condition. Think that, well, they think military rule is the way, because these are, we now having emergence of this coup d'etat being led by more or less youthful kind of leaders. So they side, the youth seem to side because they have never tasted. And of course, we are seeing what is happening in those countries that are under military rule, where rights are flagrantly flouted. People are now complaining because at the time the coup happened and they went on the street to hail them, they never thought this would come at them. So we're having all these kind of challenges that are influencing the kind of, the situation that we have in the region. So this is where I guess we'll need the civil society most as a way of rescuing the situation. We would want civil society to be on our side rather than condemning ECOWAS. I guess when you talk about ECOWAS, you are talking about member states. It's not the ECOWAS Commission. ECOWAS Commission only acts upon what member states want. So if civil society rally around ECOWAS in holding their own government, holding their feet to the fire, that makes ECOWAS's job less easier, because ECOWAS will now come in based on the fact that your own citizens are rising up, and therefore there's a need to intervene and have a kind of cordial dialogue that would actually chart a way forward. So that is where the civil societies come in, and I guess it's time for the CSOs to really rally around ECOWAS to really rescue the situation from where it is going now. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think that your answer to that is that we need more civil society intervention. And I heard you mention ECOSOC. So that would be interesting to see where is the avenue for engagement for civil society with ECOWAS. I think that's important. But he brought in an element. So as you respond, Ibrahima, I'd like you to look at that element as well. The issue about the geopolitics, and particularly the intervention of Russia and China in Africa, and how they're affecting our own governance situation here.
Ce qui est intéressant dans l'intervention du représentant de la CEDEAO, c'est qu'il développe une approche historique. Je pense que comprendre les raisons pour lesquelles la CEDEAO a été créée permet aussi de saisir les enjeux d'aujourd'hui. Je pense que peut-être que beaucoup dans la salle ne le savent pas, qu'on le veuille ou pas, la CEDEAO est une création du Nigeria. À la fin.
It's a creation by Nigeria. After the Nigerian Civil War, the Nigerian understood or came to understanding that if we want to have peace and to have good relation with our neighbors, we should have an organization, and this organization was in link with most Francophone countries. And with issues of Nigeria, there is also an issue of France, because France didn't want to see that unity, because France wanted to make sure that there was that barrier between Francophone Africa and Equatorial Guinea and other bloc as well. And they used the war in Nigeria, using Ofubuanyi, Bongo, and then Niger, and also to use them as tools to continue this disintegration. And when the war continues, the first desire was to ensure that they would have that disintegration among or in the sub-region. And that was the reason which the French were trying to create that disintegration between and also they also wanted to make sure that they had a stake in all their political and economic activities, and to also ensure that they will do everything possible to make sure that they will determine the stability and promotion of economic integration in the sub-region. So basically, one of the fundamental functions of ECOWAS was to ensure that, or assure the economic development within the sub-region, something that has not been done till to date, to promote the well-being of their citizens. And that is a mandate given to all member states. All member states have a role to play. And then I must tell you that President Yakubu Gowon, a founding member of the ECOWAS, is also wiped away by some coup d'etat. So right from there, the dream or the reason for which ECOWAS was supposed to be created, with all this dream wiped away, became something that was hanging in the balance. So that is how come that military rule right from Nigeria and other countries walked in or came into the system, and the military started seizing power through coup d'etat and all that. And in that case, the desire to ensure the well-being of the citizens were just swept under the carpet. And certainly the desire for this integration that indeed wanted to ensure that that integration was there for the sub-region was brought down by the superpowers of the world. Certainly, as I speak to you now, most of the states of the West African region are the youth, people who are lower than the age of 35, and it's ECOWAS is the most aggressive bloc when it comes to global warming and other global crisis, and how we all have to play a role. You see issues about ecology, economy, and all that. How can you even sell out issues of democracy or institutional situation or question? How can we even solve all this if we are not one people? The fourth item I want to bring on board is that the crisis that we're talking about, in fact, all the institutions in the world were in existence. All the institutions that are in the world, if you're like UN or EU, they're all there, even when the crises were at its peak. But it is the number of solutions that are given to this crisis or that are accorded to this crisis that matter. Look at ECOWAS, for example, and issues about the solutions that we have brought on board to solve our issues. Unfortunately, leadership issues are number one. In the 90s, for example, where we had strong leadership in Nigeria, West Africa didn't have any need for any external powers to come and help solve our problems. It could be solved within. And Nigeria, a country that was paying $1 billion daily, just to make sure that we get solutions to our problems. Today, it is unfortunate. We don't even have leadership. We don't have any leadership in the sub-region. We don't even have leadership even at the regional institutions. Because we spoke about norm. We don't have any better norm or practice in the ECOWAS and its institutions. President of the ECOWAS Commission has a tool, has some advantage that most institutions don't have, but he can take any institution into the ECOWAS court, for example, and he has certain powers and certain advantage over other institutions. For example, Guinea-Bissau is going contrary to the laid down institutions or constitution. It's easy for the commission, the head of the commission, to just drag Guinea-Bissau on the right path, and that is the issue. Unfortunately, there are certain serious economic challenges and certain complex crises that we have ourselves. We are really facing in the sub-region that the head of institutions are unable to handle. See, and not only that, we also have issues of cooperation, but we are saying integration. We are saying that we are guided by this economic integration, but unfortunately, we are not really living up to the tenet of what that forms us. You see, whether we have ECOSOC or other institutions, these are just insignificant, because the most important thing is the transformation that we should look out for. We are looking at an institution that after 50 years, what do we have to say? What can we even bring on board to say that this is the transformation we've brought? And if we are unable to do this, then I don't know. My last point here is that, yes, it is easy to say that the world is changing. The world order is also changing, and ECOWAS must also change, and that has been the case. In 1963, 1975, when we created ECOWAS, when Nigeria created the ECOWAS, they had no challenges, there were no problem, because we all saw that ECOWAS was there and it was playing its role. Now, during the Berlin fallout and all that, and then when the world new order was rolling out, and we had issues in the European Union and all that. and the new order that came on board that began showing how new things were done, that was where I think most of the challenges started, because member states did not want to open up their economic doors or promote that integration, and sometimes even using the institutions was not even helping. Today we are in a multipolar situation, and the ECOWAS must change. It must change in the sense that it must go in the direction of the populace or the ordinary citizen, putting their desire or putting the well-being of the citizens on the pedestal, or putting that as their best foot forward, to ensure that we're not just creating these institutions, but rather we are creating the best well-being situation for our citizens.
Brought in a line that I'll ask you, Connie, to respond to or speak to, and that is the role of citizens, civil society, media. What should we be doing? What should our role be to ensure that we are actually sustaining the democracy that we want, that works for our citizens? We've talked about the regional institutions, brought in the international element. What about us, the citizens? What should we be doing?
Thank you. I think the West African region, whatever the crisis that we find ourselves in, whatever crisis that we have currently, I think there is a force behind it, because we have created ECOWAS as an institution in 1975. But let's not situations that we have, because today we are looking at some regional issues. We are looking at cross-border issues. We are looking at Benin and Niger collaboration. There's a lot of informal exchanges and movement of people living together, cross-border issues and all that. So I think if we are looking back to our history where we have certain regional crises, it is where, in my opinion, the CSOs will look at how they can leverage on these social, the existing social cohesion among its citizens, and how they can leverage on that to create lasting solutions. Because despite whatever the situation is, there must always be a situation whereby the citizens are brought on board when it comes to finding lasting solutions to these crises. Now, to find lasting solutions by these institutions, they have to build on certain existing multilateral existing cohesion that is already among people based on their common cultural practices. For example, we have a lot of communities along the borders, and there's this cross-border common cultural practices or existence that are there. For example, for me, I think if you use the cultural and historical values that we have in our community, we can use that as a way of building that cooperation that we are looking out for, despite the challenges that we have currently. In my opinion, secondly speaking, in most countries, most of the CSOs are facing difficulties. I'm talking about where maybe currently most of them are facing difficult challenges, and there are certain extraordinary situations. Like a few while ago, Ibrahima spoke about this mediatic. What happened? That's mediation that took place in some years back, and some historical background and all that. I think let's try, first of all, create some civil space where we can promote what the population really want. Because today, most of the desire of the citizens, or what they don't even want is that a formal democracy, a formal election, and all that. They really want some kind of transparency, something that they can own, and some equitable distribution of these resources to ensure that when there are opportunities, even that of technology, for example, it is open to all and not a few.
I think I'll open the mic now. And can I ask? Oh, we don't have cards, so I will take. If you raise your hand, we'll just have one round because we don't have time. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. So I'll just take one round, and then I'll take names. So after we do that, I'll start from here. I'll take the names, and then after we do that, we will close. So your name, please, so that I write it down. Festus, yes, okay. So Festus, Dionisio, Ambassador Napoleon, right? Okay. James, Marcella, Monsieur Aluntin, Ambassador Janet, Moj, okay. Monsieur Flan, yeah. Madame Aisa, okay. And then David, okay. So can we start? Festus, please. Tracy, okay. So please, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of you. So please make it brief, straight to the point, 1 minute, if you can, please. Thank you.
So thank you very much, and let me commend the speakers for the very insightful discussions. I want to emphasize a point that was made by Mr. Siedu about the role of civil society. I think that over the years, civil society, we've done our best, but the criticisms of ECOWAS, I think, has taken more of some of the conversations that we have about ECOWAS. And I think it is time that we highlight some of the achievements that ECOWAS has achieved over the past 50 years that Mr. Siedu pointed out this morning, and also educating our citizens of why we need ECOWAS. Because ECOWAS has inherent challenges in that there are things that are happening in member states that heads of state, for example, cannot criticize their own. A civil society that will rise up to the occasion to support the work that the ECOWAS Commission is doing. So I think we need to shift from the criticism to see how best we can support ECOWAS effort and especially promote the confidence and trust of our people in the work that ECOWAS is doing. The last point is increasing ECOWAS presence in member states. You know, we have the ECOWAS resident representatives, but if I ask all of us, how many of us even know them and even engage them? We don't. So we need to increase, ECOWAS needs to increase its presence in member states, and also we need to see the ECOWAS president, especially in member states, especially in institutions like parliament.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. First, we now have Dionisio, I think, is the next. Thank you, Festus.
I will address in Portuguese. The people to use the translation.
the fight against corruption. And if we don't do these things, the power leaves to enrich the people. When so the actors of the civil society to in the third place, the consultation needs to be national. The personalities that we have in the consultation need to exercise their capacities and influence in the sub-region. Fourth, the parliaments and courts in the sub-regions need to meet with ministers and the chiefs of the government. And in the last place, some of the decisions that we take needs to be done with all the actors.
Because of our time, there's another panel that we are going to have. We also have time tomorrow. All of you here are experts and know a lot about these issues, and that's why you are here. So please, let's try and make sure that we speak in as short a time as possible so that we can give as many people as possible the opportunity to also make their positions clear. But thank you for your points. Can I now move on to Ambassador Napoleon, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Just a historical point that I want to bring on the table. Guinea-Bissau's relationship with Russia didn't start today. It started during the anti-colonial struggle, whereby the Soviet Union, Yugoslavia, China supported the PAIGC to fight for independence. That led to the Portuguese Revolution of 1973. So for any president of Guinea-Bissau, visiting Russia is like taking a trotro and going to Medina. The point that I'm making is that the president of Guinea-Bissau was once the chairman of ECOWAS. He took his green pen in Ethiopia. When we have to look at the background, and dear Burkina Faso, what did we say? A dictator we supported, now he's now a tiger, and he's saying, you, don't come to me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And world power as against ECOWAS authority having selected interests, motivating what action they take where and when, which is which. I want to be a layman in this direction. Where was this world order when ECOWAS was very successful in Gambia? The Gambian people were very much willing for ECOWAS to act, and ECOWAS acted and it succeeded. The youth are welcoming coups because most of these coup plotters are youths, and so they are aligned to them and they've not tested it before. In your presentation this morning, sir, you said when Mahama went in the hall, he was applauded. But when the coup leader entered, it was a standing ovation. Were all those in the hall youth, or did we have adult population who all welcomed the coup plotter? The simple fact is, ECOWAS is, rather than responding to what is the people's needs and requirements, but rather trying to protect the interests of the ECOWAS authority. I'll take my country as an example. Sierra Leone, we did an election where ECOWAS witnessed and observed that the election was stolen because there was no clear winner. No one candidate scored the constitutionally stipulated threshold to be declared a winner. But then a winner was declared. And then a civil society organization that used a scientific method to project those elections came out with their figures and their methodology. And the Electoral Commission said they have announced and they are correct. And then the government supported that, the judiciary supported that, and up to now that I am speaking, the EMB, the Electoral Commission, has not been able to come out with their source, that data, the polling station results from which they declared the winner. They have refused to disclose that, and nobody has taken action on that, even as I am speaking. And then, what even added salt to the wound, the very chairman of the Electoral Commission was elected as chairman of ECONEC. Just to tell us in our countries that you are just wasting your time. ECOWAS did nothing.
Yeah, thank you. Marcella.
Thank you so very much. When across West African countries, we saw the third wave booming and citizens longing to see their nations embrace democratic practices and values, it was not political leaders. It was not ECOWAS. It was the citizens themselves delineating pathways as to what they want to see for the future. So if ECOWAS wants an ECOWAS of the people, have we conceptualized that enough as civil society to design across the various countries, from Sierra Leone to Ghana to Nigeria to Togo to Burkina? What does it mean to have an ECOWAS of the people? I think, for me, that is the question, and until and unless we design those parameters and pathways, we'll be coming to this platform antagonizing. I am urging, let's organize, because the future definitely lies in the people who are able to protect their countries and design pathways for sustainable democracy.
Thank you. Aliuntin.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais dire que
I want to say that our meeting here could not come in a later day than today. Aside the reinforcement of the West African Civil Society Organization that is cross-border and beyond what we are going through, it's just to state that no matter what we have to do, we have to look out for the best way out that is going to be cross-border measures that we are going to implement. And I think the ECOSOC for us is our best card. First of all, let's look at the ECOSOC. I think what should lead us should be the most transparent
And Macron went somewhere and announced that they were creating the ECHO. They were creating the ECHO. This was supposed to be the money to be used by the entire organization. Fundamental constraint to the effectiveness of ECOWAS. The fact that you have within ECOWAS another institution We bring them and they send it to them for them to tell us why they are rejecting it. And there we would have mobilized civil society. Boy, oh boy, when we said that, when we had a break, the French journalists and the French observers who were there came to us and said, you have no damn right to do a constitution for countries. That's not your business. That is a state thing. No, so you cannot, I mean, they harassed us. And from that day, they never invited me to a forum to Bamako. I never went there. They never invited me. So the influence of France and Francophonie is the biggest constraint to the optimal functioning of ECOWAS and the implementation of the decisions that they take.
Thank you. Mboj.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la modératrice, de m'avoir donné la parole. Je tiens d'abord à féliciter pour ces pertinentes présentations. Je voudrais juste relever 3 défis auxquels nos institutions, mais aussi nos États sont confrontés. Le premier défi, c'est de rendre crédibles nos institutions. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes témoins que la posture, le leadership, mais aussi la crédibilité de la CEDEAO est remise en question aussi bien par les États que par les populations. Ce divorce ou bien cette rupture peut être imputée au changement inconstitutionnel, son inaction face au changement inconstitutionnel, mais aussi ses difficultés à faire face à la crise sécuritaire qui secoue la sous-région. Donc, comment faire pour essayer de redynamiser nos institutions, notamment la CEDEAO, pour essayer de vraiment
of the ECOWAS to create the sensitization and then ensure that they are given their rightful support. The second is to create that synergy among the civil society organizations. For example, if you go to Senegal, we have different civil society organizations that mobilize and carry out one agenda or something of that sort. But in some countries, they are dispersed in that they are working in isolation or independently. Is it possible that these civil society organizations could be given that uniform force or come together so that they can carry out a unique agenda? The third has to do with the composition of these institutions and how can they participate in very important discussions like this in nature. These are the 3 things I want to bring on board. Thank you.
Merci. Moi, je voudrais...
Thank you. I think I also want to also add my voice to what has been said and to thank those who spoke earlier on. I want to touch on 2 important things of the ECOWAS. The first has to do with the current state of the ECOWAS, and the second has to do with the relationship between ECOWAS and the AES countries. Now, looking at the functions of ECOWAS as the first, I think one of the biggest challenges that the civil society must tackle has to do with the reform. We have to ensure that the civil society organizations are all present or have a stake in all the measures that ECOWAS is going to roll out in solving the challenges. Because it is a fact to note that some member states are promoting the disintegration of the ECOWAS, and we have to make sure that we have the concrete presence of the civil society organization in institutions such as the ECOSOC and ensure that these civil society organizations are given the opportunity to be at a discussion table when it comes to looking out for solutions to challenges within the ECOWAS region. And we know that the civil society organizations have a key role to play already, which they do in their various way. The second has to do with the relationship between the ECOWAS and then the AES. And then the doctor who spoke about, the one who spoke on behalf of the ECOWAS rep, you mentioned the pragmatism about the whole situation. But I think we need to go beyond this pragmatism. You see, by looking for the different ways that we can ensure that whatever we are discussing will be practical or move to the pragmatism of the situation. For example, we know Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are having challenges that has to do with security and all that. Now, what are the concrete measures that ECOWAS is going to propose to them. We are looking at mobilization of financial resources within this space, and also the coming in of other international powers or world powers and all that. We are looking at the military rule within this space. Now, how can we ensure that not only these heads of state who are being overthrown by the military rule, not only are they going to look at what really led to this, but how can we look at the challenges, the things that really brought about this overthrow and the desire for military rule and all that. And if once ECOWAS is able to position itself very well to create a very sensitive relationship between them and the AES, I'm sure we can make progress in that regard. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you. I have a question for Dr. Ibrahim. I heard you say that all the actors who have contributed to the maintenance of peace and democracy in Senegal, it looks like you didn't mention women. I want to know, what role did women play in the maintenance of democracy in Senegal? Thank you. Thank you. I have three things to say. The first has to do with leadership of the commission. I think that has been touched on already. And then now ECOWAS finds itself in a very tight situation, and I think the leaders of the commission must take their rightful position to ensure that the power that has been given to them are used to the betterment of the commission. I'll just give an example. Today, the president of Togo has been given the role to be a mediator in the situation among the AES countries. Now, what are the limits? What are the content of his mandate or the commission that he's been given? We need to look into that. That's the first issue. The second issue has to do with the fact that ECOWAS has certain powers, certain fundamental powers that are derived from the protocols that governs the ECOWAS, and how has these protocol positioned ECOWAS to be able to tackle the situation that you have at hand? Yes, you said that the ECOWAS is not going to take our place. Yes, it's true, but the question is, what role is ECOWAS playing in its rightful position as a commission, for instance, to ensure that they have taken a right stand so that their voice will be heard and it is final? The third has to do with the civil society organizations. Yes, it is true. We need to build that synergy. We need to fortify the network and ensure that we play our roles well. We spoke about ECOSOC and the relationship we must have with the civil society organization. The issue is that we are already in the field and we are enforcing democracy, or we are making sure that democracy is being at the center of discussions. But the question is, what if we did not exist as civil society organization? What can ECOSOC do? Thank you.
First, responses to their questions and then close.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you very much. I would like to highlight on information war or information disorder. And that's because where I work, I spend most of my days on social media and to monitor the information space. Now, what I've realized is that Mr. Ebenezer highlighted that those in the countries under the junta leaders are facing rights abuse and others. I would like to say that if you're on social media nowadays, you don't see that part of information spreading. The only thing you see is how good these leaders are, how they are developing their countries, but you don't see the abuse of human rights on social media. And that is a deliberate effort of this network of people to project these leaders as the saviors of the continent. And so that's one part of the misinformation what we've been seeing. And I'll say also that for a very long time, all the discussion that had gone on, we haven't talked about the impact of disinformation or misinformation on the continent. And it's a big deal. When you monitor the space, you realize that a lot of resources has been channeled to that part to make the government, or let's say the leadership of these military leaders, look appealing to the youth. And because for a very long time, the youth are getting tired of the democracy, then framing democracy as no longer their savior, they are targeted with this information day in, day out, and they are even they've not decided which of the governance they want, but you see them getting closer to the military governance in a very long time. And so I would say if ECOWAS is able, they should also focus on mitigating.
Very inciting. Yes, am I okay? Maybe to respond to that of Togo, the mandates actually is not given to him by the commission, it's by the authority. It's the authority that actually gives the mandates. So, and of course the reason why it gives the mandates. So, and of course the reason why okay, if you have banned us from traveling, then we are no longer, and that's what actually triggered this issue of let's have our own confederation to handle or respond to ECOWAS. The issue of misinformation, disinformation is very clear. Indeed, when I said that rights are being trampled upon, for instance, in Burkina Faso, it became so obvious that whoever dissented or criticized the regime was actually taken and sent to the war front. And you never hear of them again. So it's in a way they have managed to keep or prevent people from speaking out. So all that you see on social media, that's what is actually making the man, because the youth are always on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and whatever. So the standing ovation he actually got here was as a result of the misinformation that is actually going out there. That these are what this man is doing, trying to galvanize his people, even the wake of judges and all those. So those are some of the things that make people feel that he's a hero rather than whatever one wants to see them about. But in all this, one maybe takeaway that I want to give is that indeed, having realized what was going on since last year, the authority itself, as I highlighted in the statement, also tasked ECOWAS to actually convene a special summit that would discuss most of these issues. looking at all these epochs and the current situation, the geostrategic, geopolitical competitions and all that. So there are currently plans to have this summit possibly this year, getting to end of the year. But before having the summit, there are plans to have consultations. And these consultations will be done based on thematic areas. Of course, one major one will be that of governance, democracy, peace and security, and all that. In addition, there will be those that will be held alongside the integration, trade facilitation, free movement, custom union, and all that, issues about climate change and all that. So when it comes to those ones that we have control over, for instance, in this space, we would certainly consult. And the intention is that the consultations that will go on, it's going to be citizen-driven. ECOWAS will only facilitate. We want to hear from you because it's a reflection. So we want to hear from you more on the way forward, going forward. How do we actually map out our integration, the interventions, and all that. So whatever we are going to harvest and harness from you would go into a document that we want to present to member states and eventually to the authority as a compact. So when the authority now looks at it and gives the directives, some of these discussions that we are having here would actually also feed into a possible review of our protocols and our instruments. That will be forward-looking, just as we did in the 1990s, when the tide changed and we had to respond to what we were having in those times, the civil conflict and all that. We managed to come up with very robust instruments that have actually existed and supported the ECOWAS as an institution and ECOWAS as a community up until now. So we are going to engage CSOs in this space and make sure that your views actually count, and that would also reflect in the compact that will be submitted to the heads of state at a special summit for them to look at it and take decisions on. Okay. So thank you very much, Nana.
Thank you. Can I ask Kone for your takeaway, and then we'll Ibrahim out?
Yes, only one idea. I think, je pense qu'on doit tirer des leçons là, actuellement de ce qui se passe, la crise récente que la région est en train de vivre. Et tirer des leçons, certes, c'est important. Ebenezer vient de parler du sommet du futur, du processus par lequel on va intégrer tout le monde pour réformer l'institution. Mais quel que soit le degré des réformes qui seront mises en place, tout va dépendre de la qualité du leadership qui devra le tirer. Et pour moi, la qualité du leadership, nous sommes à une phase où le leadership par le haut a montré déjà ses limites. La mobilisation par le bas, l'engagement de la société civile pour faire pression sur les leaders politiques de la région pour transformer de façon qualitative le leadership de gestion de la CEDEAO me paraît stratégique et important. Toute la question de la...
Strategies that will be forged, will be rolled out perfectly. So at the Conference of Heads of State and Government, there must be some leadership that will really align with the Commission's vision. That's the first. The second, which is equally important, the way we manage our transitions in our sub-region. Look at it very well. Countries that are in transitions from military rule are not experiencing their first coup d'etat. Burkina is on the 8th, in about 64. Mali is on the 5th. Niger is on its 6th coup d'etat. So you can see, let's not do the same things expecting different results. You see, we need to find a way of making the region very solid, giving it the right economic muscle that it needs so that it can tackle some of these issues. Let me end by saying that for me, we need to be very strategic for the good of a good or equitable distribution of resources among the citizens. Thank you.
Lunch closes at 2:30.
If we want to have enough time to eat and get something to eat, we have to finish quickly. So, Ibrahima.
Merci. 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 Alors, pour répondre à ta question, c'est peut-être...
Senegalese democracy. In fact, the women play a key role, I must state, that even after that regime, women play key role. In fact, they played key role when it came to the changes. Every Wednesday, for them, they had to have, they undertook different measures, different programs, and different manifestation that was that played a key role in ensuring that democracy was safeguarded. Look, I must tell you, and I can beat my chest to say that the women played a pivotal role in maintaining the democracy, and with the help of the CSOs in Senegal. In fact, we are not one of the first countries to think of, but I tell you for a fact that in our country, one of the very key discussions that we still have in our country is to ensure that women groups and women or gender parity is always on the table for discussion. Let me quickly give my take home. Let me continue from where my brother Konde ended. I think, first of all, let's begin by understanding that ECOWAS is created to bring solutions to challenges that are affecting the ordinary citizens. And in its history, it was diverted by issues of security, issues of politics, and all that. And certainly, we can have a very decent lifestyle or a peaceful lifestyle if we have challenges of security and the rest, that are looming. And I think it all hinges on the economics. And it is true, it is obvious that, for example, ECOWAS is looking at making sure that all states, all member states has their communities on the national grid electricity. And today we are creating different road networks where you can travel from Abuja all the way to Abidjan by road. These are some of the things that ECOWAS is putting in place to ensure that at least that ordinary citizen is comfortable. When it comes to the free movement of people and goods, I think it's the best in Africa, I can say. We don't go to certain countries with a lot of documents. Just with a simple ECOWAS card, we are giving free movement from one country to the another. So these are some of the things that are put in place by ECOWAS to ensure that the ordinary citizen within the region is comfortable. Well, we can't make progress if you are not looking at regional integration. I'm in a country by Kwame Nkrumah, who are the founding fathers of Pan-Africanism. If the Africans did not uphold or sustain Pan-Africanism by Kwame Nkrumah and other founding fathers, we will not be here today talking about Pan-Africanism. It's in the same way that ECOWAS was set up. No one thought of ECOWAS from the beginning. No university in Africa here has a specific program dedicated to ECOWAS. There's no great leader in Africa here who is talking about African integration and makes reference to ECOWAS. I mean, think tanks and other even institutions do not even look at African integration. Indeed, if we can't think of African integration, then we can't make progress. Because look at other countries, other regions like Europe and the rest, where we have intellectual groups, where we have dedicated studies or groups or domain that are geared towards integration. So I think this is the course or the road that ECOWAS must take, and I know that this will really affect all aspects of our life. economic, society, and all.
Give a round of applause to our panelists. I think that we've really exhausted this topic. Some key takeaways: civil society engagement, citizen engagement. We have to look at how we organize ourselves differently because we are in a different world, and bringing on board all stakeholders, including the religious leaders, the traditional leaders, the youth. Let's make sure that we are working together, not only as NGOs, but bringing together everybody who needs to be on board to push this agenda. We have to make sure that we are connecting the social and cultural connections. You talked about that across borders, looking at many of us speak common languages across countries. How are we connecting? How do we use that? We must make sure that we are addressing some of the challenges when it comes to ECOWAS. ECOWAS presence, for example, in our countries. We should at national level, not only at the regional level. We must look at the leadership in ECOWAS. We must also look at the quality of the leadership. Is important. In fact, I think if there's anything that the USA withdrawal has done, is to wake us up to how dependent we have become on other economies. As Africans, we have to look at our own economy. And ECOWAS, within the ECOWAS region, what can we do? We are using our resources, our own resources, to develop, for our development. And that's something that civil society, we need to be more engaged in discussions on economic integration and really build our capacity in that space and engage there, not only in the political and social. Misinformation and disinformation, using algorithms to run our lives, is what is happening now. How do we use that to push the agenda for democracy that all of us are pushing? So I want to thank you all for your time. I know that we've eaten into your lunch time, but I think we've done well in trying to use the time that we had to, address this challenge. Thank you. God bless you, and best wishes for the rest.